Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to my new apartment with all this light, bright, amazing sunshine, which means I can film all day, every day. This is so exciting. Anybody who caught the update video last night would have seen how excited I was to have my internet connected, which is why I haven't been around for a couple of weeks. So if you didn't see that update video, I apologize for being a bit MIA in the last couple of weeks, but I'm all moved in. I love my new home. It's 7 minutes walk from my work. It is light, it is open, it's only small, but it's perfect for me. Like I said in that video last night, I just am very content and very happy, super motivated, channel-wise, advocacy-wise, getting accredited wise. It's a really, really exciting period. I also mentioned in that update video that I was going to be talking today about Scientology. And a few of you responded saying, Scientology, interesting. This is an eating disorder recovery and body image channel. Why are we talking about Scientology? It does have something to do with eating disorders, I promise. The reason why this is a topic of interest to me at the moment is because I have been watching Leah Remini's Scientology, the Aftermath series. It's an 8-episode series for season 1, and it is fantastic. It's not salacious. It's not taking advantage of a very, very dark, very confronting topic. It's very respectful, particularly of the people who they're speaking to, who are ex-Scientology, let's say it, ex-cult members. They don't call themselves that because not a great marketing strategy to call yourself a cult when that's so very clearly what you are. But she is speaking to people who are bravely coming out and talking about their experiences within the cult now that they're ex-members, talking about the abuse that they suffered physically and emotionally and mentally and verbally, particularly from the leader, David Miscavige. And talking about the way that they have been forced to disconnect from family members who are still within the church cult. Now, cults as a subject matter or a curiosity for me is not a new thing. Over the last couple of years, it's probably emerged as like my #1 documentary binge topic. Anything to do with cults, whether it's a documentary or a piece of literature or a book or whatever, is absolutely the first thing that I will pick up or choose to watch. And I never quite understood this, why I had this emerging voracious interest in cults. And it twigged last night as I got to the end of this series, which I'm actually rewatching today because Nerd Factor is at about 9 at the moment. And what I realized is that I started to see this very distinct parallel between the experiences of people who talk about their time in cults, and very specifically I noticed this with Scientology, ex-Scientology members, and people who speak publicly about their time enduring an eating disorder and then coming into recovery. There's a lot of talk about these sort of cataclysmic moments that people have once they realize that they have been brainwashed or that they are engaging in a group or behavior or thought patterns which are not rational, which are not logical, which they've been doing for decades, and then have this brief moment of clarity and new perspective, and it just shatters the illusion of everything that they've been programmed to believe. And I've talked repeatedly about those initial days of recovery and my foray into recovery, and that I did have a cataclysmic, I don't want to live like this anymore. This is not healthy. This is not normal. This is not how I have to live. And this is not achieving what it's told me I'm going to achieve, that I'm going to be thin and beautiful and therefore lovable and happy and successful. It's doing the opposite. And I don't want to live like this anymore. And it just struck me how cult-like the eating disorder experience is, not necessarily as part of a group, but certainly the behaviors and the thought patterns and the programming that goes into it. I was sick for 6 years. Those thought patterns became entrenched to the point where they felt normal, where talking to myself abusively was normal. And I listened to these ex-Scientology members, particularly talking about the treatment of the leader, David Miscavige, who is hugely abusive, allegedly. Please don't sue me, Scientology. I've just moved, I have no money. And he is physically abusive, but certainly verbally abusive, and just breaks these people down, picking apart their actions, their mannerisms, their appearance, their self-worth. And I've always referred to my eating disorder voice as a drill sergeant, and I think I'm going to start referring to it as a David Miscavige, because again, there are so many parallels between the two sources of abuse, that you can do that to yourself to the point where it feels normal. It feels like you deserve this, that you've done something wrong. If you just behaved better or did better, or you were more committed, or you were more restrictive with your intake, if you were a better anorexic, then you would be happy. It's just that you're failing at it. I believed that. I believed that I just wasn't doing it right. And if I got it right, then I could satisfy that voice. And then I would be lovable and worthy and happy and successful. And that's the experience of these ex-Scientology members, is that they believed that he had the right to talk to them like that, and that it was their fault because they weren't working hard enough, or fulfilling their duties to the level that he expected, and that he had every right to have that expectation. Like, my eating disorder had an expectation of how much I should weigh. And even when I weighed that, it still wasn't satisfied. I was still abused. I could never, ever, ever get it right. And it's such a systematic wearing down of your self-worth. And you are totally reliant on that voice to validate you and tell you that you're worth something and that you did something right, because you have no intuition, you have no inner strength that is giving that to you, much like a cult leader. The thing that I was probably most touched by in this series is that you've got ex-members, particularly Mike Rinder, who's a fairly public ex-Scientologist, speaks out against Scientology constantly, to the detriment of himself and his family, because he gets harassed, he gets stalked, they steal his rubbish. Like, what a job. He was in Scientology, from memory, for 46 years, I think from the age of 6, and got married. He brought up 2 children within the church, and none of them speak to him anymore. He's remarried and got a new child because he had nothing. He left with nothing. And he was a fairly senior executive within the Scientology clergy, and was very abusive to people, particularly people outside the church who were considered to be heretics because they were, say, media personalities, journalists, and they would go on campaigns to destroy these people's lives. So he had a very nefarious role within the church and did some terrible, terrible things because he was a brainwashed, programmed individual, which doesn't take all the responsibility away, but he owns it. The parallel there for me is that I have spoken before about the element of shame of losing a period of your life to an eating disorder. And I hear about that so much from you guys, people who have either had it for 6 months or 5 years, 6 years like me, 10 years, some people who have had it for 40 years. And they sort of say to me, if I confront this, if I deal with this, I have to deal with the fact that I've lost so much of my life to an eating disorder. And there's so much shame there. It's sort of like, I've already lost so much of my life, what's the point? And my answer is always this: the only thing worse than being sick for 6 years is being sick for 6 years and 1 day, 6 years and 1, excuse my language, fucking minute. And I've had to deal with that shame as well, that I dedicated every day of my life to my eating disorder. Every minute of every day, my mental illness took all my energy and all my attention and all my focus and put it into what I was eating, what I looked like, how much I weighed, when I was going to go for a run, how long I was going to go for a run, how many calories I was allowed to have tomorrow, how many calories did I eat yesterday was the first thing I'd think about when I woke up. I've always been terrible at maths, but when it came to calories, I was a mathematical genius. I could get those numbers together very quickly. And I went through that grief. And you see that in this program, these people who say, if I had never gone into this group, this church, this cult, what could my life have been? And the conclusion that they come to is that for whatever reason that this was their path, and you know me, I'm not religious, I'm not like it's all fate, it's all predestined, but for whatever reason, they went down this path and they've had this experience. Its purpose and the reason for it is determined by what you do with it. And that was probably the most striking thing, and the thing that I got most emotional about was watching these people who have lost decades of their life and how they've chosen to shift that and turn that into purpose, turning their pain into purpose. And that therefore redefines this loss of life, this loss of a period of your life. I truly believe that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I watched it and had to rewatch it, because I didn't even realize that's what I was doing. And it's not repenting in some way. It is, I went through this, and if I don't do something great with my life, and that for me is laying out a path behind me, offering a hand, building a bridge, creating a community like that forum, which is probably this channel, about to hit 20,000 by the way. What the hell? This channel is a great achievement. I am very proud of it. The thing I'm proudest of is that forum. I have built a safe space that I wanted so desperately for myself. And I didn't even realize that's why I was doing it. That I am trying to be the example that I so desperately wanted that was not there for me. And if it was, I didn't find it. I'm not trying to discredit anyone at all, but I didn't find it. I certainly didn't find a safe private forum like the one you guys, I created it, but you guys make it what it is. And that's what these people are doing. They are taking that pain and that loss, and they are trying to make it purposeful. And I think that is such an incredible thing, way more than what I have chosen to do with my experience, because these people have lost their families, they have lost decades of their life, they have lost some of them millions of dollars to this out and out friggin' scam, pyramid scheme masquerading as a religion. That would be enough to cause anyone to crawl into the fetal position and to give up. I see that with a lot of people who have gone through this and have lost relationships, friendships, some of them their ability to have children, which is something else we're going to talk about down the track, because people don't really talk about that. But you can lose a lot to this illness that makes you think, well, screw it, I've lost enough that I can't ever claw back to a point where I'll live a happy life or I'll be purposeful. And that's just not true. It's what we choose to do with this. It's what we choose to do with this experience. And you don't have to, you know, be an example of recovery and do what I've done. If you want to, please do. There needs to be more of us, to be honest. But whatever you can do to turn that pain into purpose and to turn it into a benevolent act that is outside of yourself. And I see so much of that in these ex-cult members, is that probably the best way for them to survive is to not be too introspective, to not wallow in what they've lost, but to focus on other people. You will get a greater return than anything else if you invest in other people, if you dedicate your time and your life and your efforts to other people. Like I said, this takes up so much of my time and it makes me no money. Everything it does make me, I reinvest back into our community, but it is the greatest return on investment I've ever experienced. Now I'm just getting waffly and ranty, but that was just a moment that I had, just a moment of realization and this parallel experience that you can have with people. And I've never been in a cult, but I sort of feel like I have. I feel like I've been deprogrammed. I feel like I can see from behind the curtain now, like it's a bit of sliding doors. What life could have been like if I stayed sick versus what life is like outside of the eating disorder cult. And I want to help to deprogram other people and to show them that there is something bigger for them than just dedicating their lives to hurting themselves and staying in this mental illness. There's a bit of construction that's starting next door, so luckily I'm ready to wrap up this waffly rambly mess. I promise I'll get back to the point where these videos are a bit punchier and the point is communicated a little bit clearer, but that was just something I wanted to share with you guys because it was a profound realization and moment for me. And I also just wanted to make a video in my new home. Let's bring the dork levels down, Mia. So guys, I'm gonna go and enjoy the rest of my weekend, which is literally me doing as little as possible because I've had a couple of massive weeks with 30th birthdays and moving, etc. Here comes a truck, so wind it up, Mia. Anyway guys, I will be back next week with another video and we'll be talking about the City to Surf and the t-shirt that you're going to submit your names to be put on there that my friend Mark and I are running in the shirts with all your names so we can run for you. And we're going to be raising some funds, which with almost 20,000 of us, I think we can do something pretty extraordinary this year. Much love, missed you terribly, and I'll see you next week. Bye.